my gosh, here we are back in the States.
We are back in the States in Columbus, Ohio.
hmm
How are you doing?
Well, I am both inspired and jet lagged at the same time.
Yeah,
I feel like what we just experienced was the culmination of a lot of serendipity and a lot of just like I kind of believe that I'm living this Alice in Wonderland life where just like go in this direction, go in that direction, and the next step is revealed, and
hmm
and so so I just feel like just living into the gratitude of what just happened.
yeah,
I mean, it's like I don't think I've fully processed the magnitude of what just happened and what's probably about to happen as a result of what just happened.
yeah,
So, how about for you?
yeah. No, that's a good way to sum it up. I think you and I both. That was our second year in Cannes, south of France, and for sure, it's just like a magical week. I think whatever brand that you use on a daily basis is there. You can meet people there. You could, you know, you and I were at a event with Netflix's executives, and just to hear how open that conversation
hmm
was, to really just understand how things work.
Yeah.
I think there's a element of being able to meet the right people and simplify some of these things that might be confusing or
hmm
hard to understand. In con that could be a minute conversation.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of that during the week, and just definitely glass. It fills up your cup,
hmm
and I walked away with so many ideas and just so many things to I think pat myself on the back that
mm
you're already doing, and give yourself grace, but understand that there's a lot more that you could do. But again, it's great to know that it's almost like when I accomplish these certain things, I already know and have some of these relationships that I could rely on for
hmm
feedback, for advice, or for a partnership.
Right.
So it's a special conference.
Yeah.
Definitely a special conference.
And I feel like for me, it was also like a special route towards understanding, what this all was about, like this can thing, and so like I want to share a little bit about like the journey, because
Yep.
it wasn't just like I think I'm gonna go to Cannes, it
Yep.
was like I met this amazing soul, a woman named Adrienne, who works with Inkwell Beach and the
Yeah.
Cannes
Shout out to
Diversity.
Adrian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And we met at this Possible conference, and with a name like Possible, like almost the impossible becomes real.
It sounds like it sounds like a conference in Miami.
Yeah, it was definitely a conference in
Okay.
Miami,
Okay.
and so there we were at this networking breakfast, and she was talking all about this event in France, and I was promoting a very US domestic product, and within that conversation, my whole like every cell in my body said, okay, maybe going to Cannes makes sense for this U.S. domestic product,
hmm
and so somehow through a series of events that I can hardly really explain, I uh, put in front of my CEO the idea of going to France to get business in the States. And somehow I was granted you know, an opportunity to go to a different activation at Cannes. And then my CEO approved the travel expense. And that
Nice.
was, crazy unto itself.
Yeah.
And through another series of events, I stayed a day longer than I thought I was going to stay, which allowed me to visit the Inkwell Beach activation in Cannes.
Wow.
And then I got to connect with this energy that felt more like home than anything else that I had experienced on the beach in Cannes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and to be really transparent, I experienced homelessness when I was a kid. So I'm really drawn and sensitized to places that feel like home.
hmm
And
hmm
so here I am, boat out of water in this luxurious place, always remembering back to life in the shelter,
Yeah.
and then, being on the beach in the south of France and feeling at home thousands of miles away from where I've ever been in my life before. And there's this spirit of the inkwell effect
Yeah.
going on. And literally within that week, you and I were in Cannes at the same time, not knowing that we were there at the
Had
same
no
time.
idea. Yeah.
And I'm walking in one direction on the road, you're walking in the other direction, and then
Just run into
then
each
there we
other.
are.
Yeah.
And we took a fun selfie and sent it
Yeah.
to all of the friends we had in common. And
Well, to your point, like in Cannes, everything feels like a war, like a battle, right? When you're going places, there's so many people there. You're fighting for someone's attention who you're talking to, and you know keeping that person's attention. So the whole experience is just very like it's like a sensory overload. You have
mm,
you have drone shows happening. You have the top fashion brands that you're walking past all these stores.
mhm,
As you're experiencing it. But it was like when I found Inkwell, that was like a pause. That was like a great pause, take a deep breath.
mm,
Um, and it was just very welcoming. It was very
mhm,
welcoming. And then for that to be on the beach, that was just like a wow. How was this the first time
right.
that I heard about this?
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and I mean, just to even remember, like, I took a lot of public transportation to and from Nice, where I and we were actually staying.
Yeah.
And on the train ride in, I had like the Inkwell effect was still alive and well, and I bumped into people who were like, where's Inkwell this year? Like, because they're used to just establishing a sense of home base,
Yeah.
and Inkwell is that.
Yeah.
See, the Can Diversity Collective is where people claim their home space,
Mm-hmm.
and then they move on from there. So it was really cool to to know it was there,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then go from that kind of serendipitous meeting last year on the road, which is nothing short of like the Rodeo Drive of France,
No, 100%.
and then full circle this year we're both on the stage with
Oh,
Inkwell.
well,
Yeah.
well, to your credit, they say in life you need someone that's going to bring your name up when you're not in the room, and
Mm.
shout out to you for doing that. I had the opportunity to speak on a panel this year in Cannes, along with four other amazing women entrepreneurs all over the world too. London, Africa. So just really appreciate that, and being in marketing a lot, a creator space, PR. So there's now ongoing conversations as well. So I could appreciate the just the curation of the panel I was
Mm-hmm.
on, and that experience. But just thank you for recommending
Mm.
me, because again, that would have never that wouldn't have happened. And what was your experience? Because I know we didn't have the beach house
Right.
this year at Inkwell, but we still were able to take over a restaurant. Day two, I think, TikTok House in the Ritz Carlton as well. But what was your takeaway this year from the experience?
Well, I feel like, and I got a chance to share this, on the stage at one of the activation spaces. It's just, you know, Adrian and Cheyenne did such an amazing job of making us feel at home last year.
Yeah.
And what I feel is really important is to let them know how much that matters,
Mm.
and also to let them know how much the people that they've attracted to all of the activations all around the world uh, know how meaningful it is. And so, to that end, it was important to feel and see the contrast. A lot of things happened in the US this past year that rocked the world of different things, and nothing is the same as it was last year. So it takes more effort and energy to create a home base
Mm-hmm.
this year
Mm-hmm.
compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
And It just makes me feel even more grateful and humble, around what magic happened, but also just like grounding in the contrast, like feeling
Hmm.
the difference between last year and this year, and knowing that a Herculean effort went into making both years happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I just, in my heart, it feels like I want to do more and show up in a way that recreates that feeling of home that I will never take for granted, and I will always remember as my first can, last year.
yeah,
So it's just really time to to pay forward the
yeah,
gift that we continue to receive.
yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think like at the end of the day, the event was at a location, but the people you meet are from all over, and that continues. That's the relationship, and I think we could forget that sometimes, maybe if the depending on the aesthetic of where you're at, but you and I both remember the feeling of being at the event. So yes, we weren't at the same location, but we remember the connections that we've had,
Mm-hmm.
and how those relationships grown. And I think that's the ultimate, like, true sign of an incredible event that for sure should continue to get the support that it gets. Um, you know, because Inkwell also does activations at Martha's
Mm-hmm.
Vineyard and the at Davos and the Alps. So those are just important events that we need to have our presence from a diverse perspective, there. So definitely any organization, if you're looking for, a group to sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
Inkwell, Adrian Smith, the founder, I think that's just an incredible cause to get behind, and it's also a cause that has just years of doing the work.
Mm-hmm. And just to, like, I'm now in it, and I'm just remembering some of the, like, the magic. So like there was a panel where they started just each of the presenters and the panelists were like, know that we are enough. And that energy was really powerful. And I wear this bracelet that says enough,
I love that.
and it was just, I guess what I love, in this world where a lot of us are clamoring for, time in front of the stage and the microphone, uh, that even if we're not on the stage, our heart is being expressed because it's a collective heart, like, so when others were saying we are enough, and I'm like looking at my bracelet and just knowing that, um, that's all it takes, is just the knowing that we are enough.
Hmm.
And there's always more we can do. There's always more that's going to be expected of us, because when we get to experience things like can, it comes with a responsibility
Yep.
to elevate our game and to, like, be about more than just ourselves. And
Yep.
so, I'm working on a book that is talking about the new social contract that we get to live into as a
Mm-hmm.
result of all that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I feel like my writing will become more collective because of experiencing that sense of we are enough. And
Yeah.
so I don't know
Yeah, well, I
how
know
it,
we had
yeah,
some great combos,
yeah.
in Can about the book, and
Hmm.
I'm excited to see that um, come up.
Yeah,
And I think we're in the last few months, right?
yeah,
Before,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm shamelessly or unapologetically co-authoring it with AI because it's about the convergence of technology that's going to allow and provide the opportunity for us to have a new
yeah,
social contract. And
yeah. And I
so,
don't think there
yeah,
should be anything wrong with that. I think,
right.
like, if you had a publisher, it would cost you a lot more, and it would, who knows, it might delay the project. So this book is very much your thinking, your thought.
Hmm.
Someone said it's AI inherently is slop. It's up to the user to make it not.
Mm.
And that's almost how I look at it into a certain way. It's how you talk to it, how you probe it. But I think you've been talking about this before. Chat GPT was around technically in a
Hmm.
way. So I think we all know that it's very much your 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 thoughts, your thinking, and
Mm.
yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say your, because, I mean, philosophically and spiritually, some of this is just coming through me. It's not even mine to own, which is why I guess the only thing that I feel comes from and through me is just grounding in an experience.
Mm,
So what I alluded to earlier is having experienced homelessness earlier in my life. That was pretty disruptive, and the book's called Conscious Disruption. So it's about
mm,
embracing disruption, because everything that happened after the time in the shelter, even including some of the time in the shelter, was nothing short of miraculous.
mm,
And so, had I not experienced that disruption, I wouldn't have become the person writing Conscious Disruption.
yeah.
And so now I feel like it's important to know that I'm uniquely qualified to help us or support us in getting ready for the next disruption,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
to call the question and to have the conversation in advance about what what's about to happen or what's happening. It's not even about to happen; it's happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's I'm not alone in it. I don't want to be the only expert in the room. It's just up to all of us to engage in advance of things happening to us. So if we frame the next steps together, then it's not like, oh no, change is coming. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yes, we're making the change, and that feels really empowering. So.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that you have the courage to talk about these issues that are currently happening, and people are feeling it. There's obviously new opportunities, but it's new technology that you have to
Hmm.
learn to be able to participate in those opportunities. You can't just sit around and not learn AI and expect to participate
Mm,
in the benefits. Um, Unless if you're able to invest in it. But
right.
that's a whole
Well,
different.
it's
Yeah.
funny that you bring that up, because in researching a lot of the elements of what's going to make the book, and the platform, one of the things that I relearned is, the question of what separates us from other species on the planet.
Mm,
You know, Humans are unique to themselves or their species by the simple fact that they make and use tools. And
okay.
so if we
Yeah.
don't sit here and look at AI as a tool that we've made and get to use, then we're actually not expressing our full humanity.
Wow.
So it's just an interesting lens on what that all could mean for the next steps that we're about to take together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and obviously there's space exploration
Mm,
happening. There's a manufacturing revolution happening, that it's requiring a lot of us, to build and to
mm,
use things. And AI, a lot of it is the build out of AI, and the concrete and the copper that it takes to build out the data centers around the country. These are all, I mean, these are construction,
mm,
these are electrician, these, plumbing. So, we're seeing a lot of old trades that are initially benefiting in the boom that we're
mm,
having right now. And engineers are learning how to re relearn and rework and use agents and use different
mm.
things. So it's definitely a time to stay curious and to stay
Yeah.
learning, and understand that a new social contract, right, is being made in terms of how we communicate with technology with each other. And also we're a global world, right? I think like you and I are at a global conference
Hmm.
in south of France, right, in Cannes. I don't think that was something that I was really necessarily ever thinking about attending, 4 or 5 years ago,
Right.
right? But now, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, it's almost something that I don't know if I could afford not to attend
Right.
every year, right? So I also think that is going to lead to other places
Mm,
to have more events, right? You know, how much bigger can the con film fest get in theory, right? How many, right? So what about Africa? What about
Mm-hmm.
the Caribbean? What about, South America? I think all of these places, people want to go
Mm,
outside. People want to experience, eye contact and
right.
real conversations. So, one of my takeaways from Con is that I think we're going to see more of these
Mm-hmm.
conferences around the world, um, to really highlight more people. If you think about it, right? The film fest highlights the top of the top,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Con Creative Fest highlights the top of the top, right?
Sure.
So I think you know, I think there's an opportunity for more of these localized events to happen, and I think that's really what people want, these
Sure.
experiences. So
Well, tell me more about how your world and the Inkwell effect and Khan and all that come together.
yeah, so Con last year was my first year, and there's a startup that I've known the founder for a while. Saw him start the company, um, get a small seed check and started to grow it. And he gave me a call last year, probably like a week before Con. It was like, hey, look, do you want to go? I'm meeting up with some creators that we're working with, and I had wrote a small angel check into the company at the time. So that was my experience, and I knew about the film fest. I didn't really know about the creative side
Mm,
more. So getting there was a complete just wow. I was not prepared for this. I like
mm,
from and I was just shocked by the amount of brands that were there. I was shocked by the professional athletes, the celebrities that were there talking about content.
mm,
And it was a very creative conference in nature. Um, I've attended Art Basel, South by, CES. I've been to those, but this definitely felt a little different.
mm,
And it maybe could just be the European and just world global perspective of having folks from all over. Um, so that was an incredible experience. So it was a great experience, from there with Ibrahim. Taja is the company, and it just we met so many people. It was just so alarming to be that the proximity to decision makers.
mm-hmm.
I think if you go to any conference, that's the goal, right? Like, what can we do to learn directly from people there? So it was just a great experience. And this year, again, thank you for
Mm,
the for bringing me up, and it was just a great opportunity to be able to not only go back at the activation that I felt at the most at home, and just loved being there, at Inkwell, and connect and speak with more folks. My company Collab, it's all about helping businesses connect with new customers, capital, talent. We never thought we should have a mobile application or play the volume marketplace game. We've always been very deliberate, about not connecting people to, you know, just someone that they're not interested in meeting. So because of that, we've been lucky to grow to over 700
mm,
customers in 38 states, 15 countries. We have like a 60% retention, since the start of time, with our customers, and we've helped a few people sell their companies. We've helped a few people, with mergers and acquisitions. So there's a lot of companies who've came on our platform and graduated off the platform, and I do credit that to the unique nature in terms of how we deliver our service. Um, we very much focus on scale and focus on utilizing AI and utilizing software to simplify our lives. But in terms of how we deliver the product to our customer, we really focus on just saving their time and really understand what they're doing. So any event like a con where you can meet the decision maker and get to the point quick is just hand in hand. And Inkwell is really like a a living embodiment of what we try to do on a day-to-day basis, just in terms of the connections during the event and then after the event.
Hmm.
The year goes on, you and I still get the emails, we still get the invitations to smaller activations. So that's true community. You got to continue to follow up and and just see how you can just be present
Hmm.
when you get called on. And sometimes it's not always an issue. It could just be, hey, this is an event that we're doing, a celebratory party that we're coming
Hmm.
to, right? So yeah, no, I think it was just an incredible 2 years. Like I said, one of the top conferences that
Hmm.
I could think of, and it's an experience that I think any brand, any creator should definitely put on their radar early right now for 2027.
Agreed. Well, I feel like the other thing that just you inspired me to remember is what you said when you were a panelist at Inkwell, and I feel like what separates you from perhaps other services trying to do similar things is what you said about, just when you create something that moves forward and creates more resources, then what there is to do is do life together. And so, like,
Mm,
when, like, case in point, like Ibrahim was like, join me with this, do life with me.
mm.
And that's unique. That's like, not every business model says let's do life with each other.
Yeah,
So, like, it's important to embody that and to know how meaningful that is.
yeah. I think in this business, I end up meeting the founder in some situations, and there's just an element of I think what I said, I could be transactional or I could do life with you, and in many cases business starts off as transactional, but I do think that if it's a positive relationship and positive results, um, a relationship and a friendship typically kind of starts out of that, and that's not always our goal.
Hmm.
Obviously, sometimes that's impossible to do. I do think proximity. When I spent a lot of time in Miami, Florida, I was able
Hmm.
to meet a lot of our customers in person. Um, and that's the benefit to events, right? To events like Con, because you get the opportunity
Hmm.
to meet your customer in person, and again, there's I think that's where the greatness comes out
Hmm.
of. In the venture world, you meet so many founders who the first one didn't work, the
Hmm.
second thing might not have worked, but sometimes that third thing really was, the home run. And I think a lot of it stems from, you know, just keeping that open line of communication, and just knowing that it's an ongoing learning process.
Hmm.
I think that's the most important thing.
Well, and I feel like just what pulls it all together is, again, an expression of our humanity.
Yep.
And what's going to carry forward with any new social contract we have is the power of the relationship. And, you know, what we're sitting here talking about is nothing other than evidence of the power of the relationship,
Mm.
plus
Yep.
serendipity and the inkwell effect.
100%.
Yeah.